Here's my no-nonsense screening guide for stocks. And a few things before I start. This guide will help you determine which stocks aren't worth your time researching and the ones that are. And I can't stress enough, just because a stock passes through this screening guide doesn't mean it's a good investment. This is strictly a guide for determining which stocks are and aren't worth your time researching. I'm not a professional. These are just guidelines I find useful, so keep that in mind, and let's dive in. The very first thing I look for in a stock is whether or not it pays a dividend. If it doesn't pay a dividend, like Amazon, Facebook, or Tesla, for example, throw it in the trash, baby. It's not worth your time. I have no idea why you'd want to own a position in a company that doesn't return cash to you. At that point, it's just gambling. And I'm not a gambler. I'm an investor. And now that we threw half the stocks in the trash, let's sift through the rest, because even some stocks that pay dividends are not worth your time researching. The next test a stock must pass is whether or not the payout ratio is below 70%. Now, the payout ratio is a financial metric showing the proportion of earnings a company pays to its shareholders in the form of dividends and is expressed as a percentage of the company's total earnings. So, a lower payout ratio means the company has more room to increase its dividend and also has more money to invest and grow the company. With that said, if the payout ratio is below 70%, it moves on to the next round. And if it's over 70%, throw that puppy in the trash, baby. It's not worth your time. Now, the field is getting pretty thinned out, but there are still more tests to be done. The next test looks at whether or not a stock's current ratio is greater or less than 1. And the current ratio is a liquidity ratio that measures a company's ability to pay its short-term debts. It can be found by taking the current assets on a company's balance sheet and dividing it by the current liabilities, also found on the balance sheet. So a current ratio greater than 1 indicates the company has more current assets than liabilities, and a current ratio less than 1 means the company has more current liabilities than assets. If a company has a current ratio greater than 1, it moves on to the next round. And if it's less than 1, throw that baby in the trash. It's not worth your time. Another thing I look for when sifting through stocks is the earnings growth rate. Now, I don't shoot for some magical number like the past two tests. It's just important to know if the company's earnings are growing or not. If the earnings are not growing, toss her in the trash. It's not worth your time. And the final thing I look for in dividend stocks before starting my real research has to do with the company's commitment to growing the dividend over time. And it's not specifically seeking out companies that have grown their dividends for like 50 plus years. Sure, those companies will pass the test. But I'm also looking at companies that just started to grow their dividends. They will also pass the test. The companies I stay away from are the ones with a stagnant dividend. So if a company has a dividend that has stayed stagnant for the past couple years, throw that hoe in the trash. It's not worth your time. And that's the screening criteria I use to determine which stocks I will research in more depth. I find it to be really important as an investor to have some sort of screening guide to use for stocks, or for any investment in that matter. You know, it saves you time and can help you make smart plays with your money. So, if you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing. It really helps me out, and you know it warms my heart. Also, if you like this video, I guarantee you'll love my last video, where I explain how I make 7 cents per hour. Many have called it a banger episode. I realized this was a shorter video, but I wanted to stick to that no-nonsense feel. Anyways, I appreciate you, fam. Catch you in the next one.